A roided-up bouncer threw me out for causing trouble not knowing I owned the building. The bouncer's forearm pressed into my throat hard enough that I tasted copper. My feet barely touched the ground as he dragged me backward through the crowd, his other hand crushing my shoulder with fingers that felt like steel cables. People were filming. The bass from the DJ booth rattled my skull as he threw me face first into the brick wall of the alley, and I heard my phone crack against the concrete when it fell from my pocket. Quote 1-1, he said, his voice chemically deep, veins bulging from his neck like garden hoses. Quote 2. Then he went back inside my own building and locked the door behind him. I'd inherited the property 8 months earlier when my uncle died, a 4-story mixed-use building in the revitalized warehouse district downtown. The ground floor housed Apex nightclub, a place that had been struggling when I took over but was now pulling decent crowds on weekends. I was 28, worked in software development, and had zero experience as a landlord. My uncle's attorney, Douglas Brennan from Brennan & Associates, had walked me through the basics during probate. The building had 3 commercial tenants and 6 residential units above. Apex had a 5-year lease with 2 years remaining, paying $8,500 monthly, plus a percentage of bar sales over $50,000. The contract was standard, except for one detail buried in an addendum that I'd barely glanced at during the endless paperwork signing. They had operational control of their space, including security decisions, as long as they maintained insurance and followed fire codes. I'd visited the club once during my first month as owner, introduced myself to the manager, a guy named Cameron who seemed competent and professional. He'd given me the tour, shown me their updated sound system and the new LED panels they'd installed. Everything looked legitimate. The residential tenants paid on time through direct deposit. The other commercial spaces, a coffee shop and a boutique gym, had no complaints. Being a landlord felt almost passive, just collecting checks and approving repair requests through my property management app. I figured I'd gotten lucky with a turnkey situation. That assumption lasted until I stopped by the club on a Saturday night in October, planning to grab a drink and see how the business was doing firsthand. The line stretched halfway down the block when I arrived around 11. I walked past it toward the entrance, assuming I could explain to whoever was checking IDs that I owned the place. That's when I first saw him. The bouncer stood 6'5" easily, his neck as thick as my thigh, wearing a black compression shirt that looked vacuum-sealed to his chemically enhanced physique. His arms were covered in tribal tattoos, his jaw set in a permanent scowl, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the night. A brass nameplate on his chest read, I approached with my hand extended, ready to introduce myself. He placed his palm flat on my chest and shoved me backward hard enough that I stumbled into the couple behind me. Quote 4, he said, his voice rumbling from somewhere deep in his steroid-swollen chest. I regained my balance and tried to explain who I was, but he'd already turned away, letting a group of women in short dresses pass the velvet rope without checking anything. I decided not to make a scene in front of 50 people filming with their phones. Professional landlords probably didn't get into sidewalk confrontations with their tenants' employees. I walked to the back of the line, figuring I'd talk to Cameron once I got inside and clear up the confusion. The wait took 35 minutes. By the time I reached the front again, a different bouncer was checking IDs, a smaller guy with a tablet who seemed focused on matching faces to names on some kind of list. I handed him my driver's license. He scanned it with a portable reader, then looked up at me with confusion. You're not on the list, he said, apologetic. Before I could respond, the massive bouncer appeared beside him, plucking my ID from his coworker's hand. He studied it for a moment, then looked at me with something that might have been recognition, but felt more like calculation. Quote 6, he said slowly, as if speaking to a child. Quote 7, I assured him it wasn't, that I'd be happy to provide additional identification if needed. He handed the license back and stepped aside. Go ahead, but I'm watching you. But what happened next changed everything. Full story is linked below or on my channel.